Well, welcome to the call, everyone. This is PetClub 24/7, and it truly has been 24/7 these days. It has been amazing already. We're just into this a couple of months, and it feels like just that the energy is supporting all of us. It's coming in and talk about the wind beneath our wings. It's amazing. You just look at the numbers on these Zoom calls. This is like I don't know, maybe it's our ninth call, but we just grow in leaps and bounds constantly. The entire team is growing in leaps and bounds, and I think it's all because the timing. The time has come for this to hit the marketplace, and I believe it was due to a lot of coincidences. And actually, the owners that put this company together started doing it 8 years ago. And there's a lot of brilliance that they put into it that I don't even think they fully realized. And even now looking back, maybe they're understanding, just how brilliant it all is. But I can look at it and I just shake my head and go, wow, the timing for this was just amazing. In the last, let's just call it 5 years, we've gone through some interesting times, to say the least. And it's kind of primed everyone for exactly what this company is delivering. And the bottom line is what they're delivering is immune modulation. And the doorway they used and decided to use, and I think it's very brilliant, is a pet supply company and immune modulation in regards to pets. Now, there's no one doing that. And it is a market that's wide open within a market that is growing at a staggering rate. In fact, in 23, it was 147 billion, which shocked all forecasters. It was way beyond what it was forecasted even a couple of years prior as a vertical market. It's exceeding expectations. By 2030, it's expected to be double that, by 300 billion, and we'll see if that exceeds expectations as well. And during the pandemic, I think people, they felt lonely, they felt isolated, and many people turned to pets. Many people turned to animals. Why would that happen? And throughout time, we've regarded our animals as our sometimes our closest friends. It's like man's best friend. The dog is man's best friend. Could be a horse, could be a cat, could be a goat. But animals just have this ability for extreme loyalty, for just unconditional love. And it's really kind of the embodiment of what we all kind of desire from our own lives, that solidity, that love, that warmth that they're the masters of. And it's such a great thing that this company had recognized that. And what a great way to bring into the world something that they knew was quite amazing. In fact, they knew what they had their hands on was just unprecedented, and truly it was. If you go back in history and look at Coriolus versicolor mushroom, you'll find its use steeped in history, steeped in the medicinal pharmacopoeia of ancient cultures. In fact, the ancient Egyptians regarded it as a longevity elixir. The ancient Romans regarded it as a health and wellness tonic. The Asians regarded it as so important it anchored their entire pharmacopoeia. They based a lot of their remedies upon functional mushrooms, including Coriolus versicolor. So it's not a surprise to me that it came out of Asia, the perfection of this. So we have a combination of things. We have a combination of the fact that there's ancient wisdom and ancient use. And talk about science. Science is just trial and error, proving something over and over and over again until it's just fact. And that's what's happened with this mushroom throughout time. We've known that it's an immune modulator. We've known it helps, it supports people. It has through various cultures all around the planet. And yet it took modern technology to figure out why and pinpoint, and by figuring out why, they could figure out how to optimize it. Now, not in a laboratory, it's still a whole food. It's still as it's found in nature. But they looked at nature and they found what was amazing was there were 200 different varieties, over 200 varieties globally, of the Coriolus versicolor mushroom. So obviously they studied each one. They found the one that reigned supreme, and there was a broad spectrum of variants. So they found the one. Then they worked with that one. And I think more important than anything, they tested every phase of its development and growth. And in doing that, they found out something interesting. It was in the mycelium phase that it was most potent. That's when it's still underground. That's when it hasn't broken through the soil and formed a fruited body. That's where it's always been harvested. All throughout time, they waited, you can't really see it when below ground. So, and that's where it exists massively below ground, and that's where its potency is. But it breaks through the ground, and in fact, it has the strength to even break through asphalt. Yeah, it's so powerful. When it breaks through the ground, now the benefits that are captured in the mycelium phase are depleted and dispersed as it goes into the fruited body, where it's normally harvested. So they started harvesting it at the mycelium phase. That was significant. That was a big turning point. Then they had to learn how to process it, because all these different ways to process it and put it in a capsule in a formulation altered and damaged some of the benefits. So they, through trial and error, through modern technology, they found out the most superior way to process it to protect all of the beneficial aspects of this amazing Coriolis versicolor organism. So and what they ended up with is truly astounding. And we started finding this out about 2 decades ago, when the future owner of PetClub 24/7, it's owned by 3 individuals, Simon Liu, his mother had a serious lung affliction, and she didn't know how serious, but she ended up at Sloan Kettering, and they didn't give her a very good prognosis. But she said, I want to go through treatment, I want to live. So they threw everything they had at her, and at the end of treatment, it wasn't successful. And they said, we're very sorry, you have at most 2 months to live, could be even a month and a half. Go home and get your affairs in order. So Simon, being the diligent son, he started calling relatives to let them know the situation. One of his relatives, fortunately, was a physician in Japan who happened to be working with this mushroom on a team. And when he contacted this doctor and told him the story, his cousin said, hold on a minute. We're working with something that we're seeing amazing things with in cases like your mother's. Would she try it? In fact, he said it's being fast-tracked to be used in cases like hers. And of course, the son said, absolutely, she doesn't have any other hope, except we don't know if you can get it here in time. So they expressed it over. She started taking this capsule. And within a month, she started feeling better. But when doctors at Sloan tell you that you've got maybe 2 months to live, you believe them. So the psychology of that affected the mother, and she thought, well, my end of life will just be better. I'm still dying. But she kept taking the capsule. Within 2 months, her original symptom that drove her to seek medical care in the first place cleared up. She thought, how strange, but maybe that's just the way God works, and I'm going to have a better end of life. Within 3 months, she was feeling like her old self. She didn't understand, but she's like, well, I'll keep taking this capsule. 4.5 months after the original send home, she went back to Sloan, and the doctors looked at her file, looked at her and said, you shouldn't even be here. She said, yeah, I'm feeling great. They ran all the tests. They came back in the room just dumbfounded. They said, there's no evidence of disease. That's impossible. They said, what did you do? She said, well, we have a relative that's on a medical team in Japan, and they sent over this mushroom extract. The doctors at Sloan could hardly believe it, but they wanted to test it. They said that if it has a merit, we need to know about it. So some was sent. They began doing clinical trials. That's when it all started a couple of decades ago. And the clinical trials came back with amazing findings. The immune system modulation was astounding. It was so astounding that these various treatment centers communicate with one another. And so MD Anderson started doing their own studies and finding the same thing. Loma Linda University, same studies, same things. Harvard, same findings. It started being promoted by various medical societies around the country and finding its way into various universities, including veterinarian schools. Now, the owners of this company, future owners of this company, didn't know that it had made its way into veterinarian schools because one day they were sitting around talking about it. And they had recommended this for different people at different times. And they kept seeing these amazing studies and they would recommend it to people because, what can immune system modulation do? And it blew their minds what it was capable of. What they didn't quite understand, what they had their hands on in the very beginning, is what the immune system really does. The immune system is what keeps us alive. It's what allows our body to communicate and signal and balance itself and to keep all of the other systems functioning properly. And so it's many and varied, and it involves every cell of the body and every organ system in the body. So they began to become shocked at the power of what they actually held in their hands, and they knew they needed to get it out to the world. But quite frankly, they were a little afraid of it. They had such amazing testimonials. They thought, wow, this could just shock the entire health industry. And they were sitting around one day scratching their heads about, what doorway to use to get it into the world because they felt they'd been handed a dispensation. They felt they needed to get it into the world somehow. And one of them had just put down their dog, and the dog was way too young. And they started talking about animals and how they remembered in the old days, animals lived longer. And when they looked into it, they found that animals were living about half as long as they did, even as recently as the 1970s. And that was quite concerning. They started thinking something's wrong with that. I myself think it's the canary in the coal mine. Animals have a faster metabolism, and so things begin to show up faster in animals than they do in humans. But already we're seeing human life expectancy dropping. In fact, it's dropped so drastically in the last few years. We've already passed the 1999 charts of what to expect with life expectancy. We're going backwards and we're steeply declining. And I believe we could be headed to that same arena where we live half as long as a species as we did our parents and our grandparents. That's the area we are headed, because my word I use for the immune system is we've hammered it. Medically, it's called dampened. We've actually effectively dampened the immune system by various modes that we've used throughout our industrial revolution, from toxins in the air, food, and water, various frequencies the body, life has never been exposed to, 2, 3, 4, 5G. All of these things that are interrupting our ability for our immune system to function properly have massively increased over the past, let's just say 60, 70, even go back maybe 100 years. But the problem with a lot of the toxins in the environment is they tend to accumulate. So right now we're at a precipice where we're beginning to feel the impact of what's happened over the last 100 years. And we're seeing a decline, we're seeing a reaction of what we've contributed to this whole ecosystem, and it's beginning to affect us. And where it's affecting us is our immune system. And when we look around, everyone we know has family members or friends that are sick, and in many cases, extremely sick and life-threatening sick. But almost everyone has some kind of disease, and almost everyone is on at least one medication, and in many cases, multiple medications. And every time you add a medication into the body, which is trying to balance itself, and the immune system is the prime balancer, it gets more and more confused and more difficult to create that balance. And so we are headed for disaster, in my opinion, because you can't mess with the immune system and expect a great result if you continue to do the same thing. So that's what I meant at the top of this call with the timing of this could not be better, because we are waking up, and we're waking up to the fact that we do need something. And almost everyone you talk to realizes one of the most valuable things you can have in the world today is a strong, functioning immune system. And we look at our pets and we see what's happened because their immune systems haven't been strong. And cancer rate among pets is almost 70%. And it's headed that way with people. The percentage increase in various disease is staggering among people. Almost every chronic disease is on the rise, and not by like a few percent. I'm talking hundreds of percents, in some cases, thousands of percents. In fact, some cancers are at 3,000% increase when you compare it to cancer rates in 1990. So we're in an interesting time, and it's time to take some sort of action. And the most powerful immune modulator that the planet has ever known has now been isolated and perfected due to modern technology. You can't deny that. And everyone that hears about this says, I want that, I need that. No one, literally no one turns it down. And even people that want to just, I'll order it for my pets. If I got this for my dog that we were already talking about putting him down, much to my consternation, because he's my best buddy and he's always within 3 or 4 feet of me, laying here right now. And he was not doing well, hasn't done that well for 3 years. He's a large breed German Shepherd, weighs 155 pounds. He's not obese, he's just big, like a bear. And he's, when I looked it up 3 years ago, I found out that his breed lives to about 7 or 8, and he was 8. So I thought, oh no. So we started making his food, giving him supplements and keeping him as well as possible, but it wasn't great. He was in a state of decline for the past 3 years. And when I ordered the product for him and me, because I had a serious lung infection that was quite concerning to me, thought it was going to take me out a couple of nights. And I get this in for me, the Coriolis Versicolor, start taking 6 a day. And I took 2 a day of the Inforce Plus. The Coriolis is in a product called Inforce. So I amped it up a bit. In 2 days, I was clear. But I'm watching my dog. First day, he had a little bit of loose stools. Anyway, let me take a drink. My wife was kind of, being a skeptic, and she said, well, I don't know, those mushrooms might not be good for him. But coming out of functional medicine for 45 years, I knew that he wasn't doing well, and you're going to have some kind of cleansing going on. So that was probably normal. And the next day, he was quiet, like he was just kind of in a recovery phase. By the third day, he was actually up moving around a little more than he usually was. 1 week is when I was shocked. When I looked at him after a week, I noticed fur was regrowing on his legs. That had all been lost over a year ago. Then I noticed it was starting to regrow on his belly. That had also been lost over a year ago. Then I started, a few days later, I'm looking at his back, I'm brushing him, and it's like the fur is coming in and it's softer than usual. And within 2 to 3 weeks, he starts looking like his old self. 6 weeks in, we just are aghast. That would be impossible, we would think. If we just ordered this for our dog, we would be saying to ourselves, holy cow, why can't they have a product like that for people? Well, that's exactly what happened. When they started this company, they did it, they thought, let's get this out into the world with pets. They had pet treats and pet food, and they said, let's produce a real organic, very healthy pet food. That's a great market. We're gonna do well in that market. They had no idea what they were about to create. Pet owners started realizing their dogs, their cats, their horses were literally getting younger before their eyes. Then they started demanding. In fact, they were eating the dog biscuits, the mush ponies, the horse biscuits, because they wanted the benefits that the pets were experiencing. So they decided to compromise. They knew that it was very good for humans. It had proven itself for thousands of years that it was good for humans. So we'll put human product on the website, but we're going to keep the testimonials off, because they already knew the testimonials were just off the chain. So they said, we'll just stick with animal testimonials because that's much less regulated. But then along comes a guy that had some serious thing going on, and he got better, and it changed his life. So he said, somebody somewhere needs to post something about this. So he put up a website. That website's not owned by the company, not put up by the company. It doesn't mention the company's, the product names, or the company name. But he put it up because he knew as a service that he could give to humanity was let people see what this was capable of. And that's called Mushroom Studies, plural, mushroomstudies.co. So you can go there and see the studies from Sloan and MD Anderson and Loma Linda, et cetera. And you can see some testimonials there. But that's separate from the company. And one of the things I want to emphasize is this product does not treat, does not cure, does not mitigate disease. What it does is it modulates the immune system, but the power of that is amazing because the immune system facilitates life, and life is a miracle. So what this is not a miraculous product. What this does is support us, which supports life, which is miraculous. So it supports the miracle that we are and allows us to reflect that miracle into our own existence at a time when it's most needed in the world. Just a few things about mycelia. Mushrooms are trending, and researchers are all over mycelia. You know, it's like it's starting to come out. It's starting to come out in a big way. And some of the researchers are actually calling mycelium the Earth's natural internet. It actually works between all of the various species on the planet under the ground and actually fosters the nutrient transfer. One of the researchers calls it the nurturer of Mother Nature, because this multi-directional transfer of nutrients between plants that's mitigated by the mycelium is just boggling the minds of researchers. They're just finding this stuff out. The largest organism on the planet, in fact, is in Oregon, and it's 2,200 acres large, over 2,000 years old, and it's mycelium. There was a research institute, a couple of them that banded together to research the effect of mycelium on pollution. And they had 4 piles of organic matter. And they had, one was a control group they just left alone. The other one they actually sprayed with enzymes. Another one they sprayed with bacteria. And the third one they sprayed with mycelium. They came back in 6 weeks. They covered them and they came back in 6 weeks. They uncovered them. All of the piles, even the control pile, was dark. What was the word used? Dead, dark, and stinky. All of the piles were dead, dark, and stinky, except the one sprayed with mycelium, which had become an oasis of life. It had literally restored that organic matter into life matter. And how it did it, the mycelium had the ability to break down the hydrocarbon bonds. They'd sprayed these piles with, it wasn't just organic matter. I forgot to add, they'd sprayed the piles with diesel and industrial waste and petroleum waste. So they were waste piles, all sprayed with the same thing. But the mycelium had the ability to break the hydrocarbon bonds, create enzymes, these peroxidases, that literally turned that pile that was headed to dead, dark, and stinky to turn it into an oasis for life. And that's the power that mycelium has and has always had on this planet. So that's why I believe it's coming to life now as a phenomenal immune system modulator. And PetClub 24/7 has the rights to this because of the family connection. They got the rights to it, and everything has come to California in Simi Valley and being produced in organic greenhouses there. And they put this company together with such amazing generosity. They decided to name it PetClub because they foresaw this, and this is the brilliance of their vision. Even 8 years ago, they knew you couldn't compete with Amazon, and look at it today. Almost everyone, that's where they shop. Even big box stores, they put a dent in their business, big dent. How can you compete? You can't compete with that. How did they do it? They started a club, PetClub 24/7. And if you look at the compensation, it really pervades the whole thing is this club. If you build a team here, the amount that they share with you in terms of the profit is tantamount with being an owner of the company. They literally partner with us. It blew my mind when I realized how this comp plan functions. When I looked at it initially, I thought that's not a very good compensation plan, because I'm used to seeing the old style plans where it's either in some unilevel or binary or matrix and certain numbers coming off each of those. And that always has a lot of breakage. In any company that pays distributors, there's all kinds of breakage built into those matrices and binaries and unilevels. We all know it. But I saw this one looked a little weak. The numbers looked a little weak to me. But then I heard the top people talk about all the money in the plan and talked about the bonuses and how they compressed and how the revenue sharing and how rich that was. And I thought, okay, I just love the product. I just started calling people. I didn't even understand the compensation plan. It was really the month of February that I was calling people. And I didn't even track how much I was making. That was secondary to me. I knew we had something amazing. February 28th, I went in and looked and added up all the bonuses. It blew my mind. In 35 years of network marketing, I've never had a beginning month like that. It rocked my world. I looked at my wife and said, "Is that correct?" And she had a smile and she said, "You're doing really good." I had no idea. I knew she had been kind of quiet. I've been on the phone a lot and she seemed okay with it, but she's the one making the deposits. So that's why she's just totally fine with it. But I tell you what, finally someone gets it. Finally, someone understands what we go through. Finally, someone understands the level that we exert and we put into building teams. And they have the respect for us to reward us in a huge way, finally. So anyway, you've heard a little bit about how it affected me, how it affected my dog. But I want to ask others, we're all very new. Like I said, it was February, really, that I realized how amazing this is. And we're still in March. Good grief. It's amazing how fast this is moving. But I know that many of you have gotten product, and I know many of you are starting to realize the power of this. Please step up and share some good news with us. And if Liddy hadn't told you about it, you would never have known. And that's, I think, our responsibility to understand the world needs what we know about, and very few people know about this. When I first was on the phone, the first part of February, it took me until like the third week to find even one person that had heard of this company. This is the best kept secret that has perhaps ever hit the world, but it's not going to be a secret for long. So I think it's real important for us to understand people will be finding out about this. It's like a people magnet. Everybody's going to want in and want to come in and be on this product. And now is the time for you to take action, massive action, because the massive action you take right now will change your life, possibly for generations. I believe that's true. I believe that's the power of what we have. So that's why we're doing these calls Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday to tell this story so you can send people here to hear about it. We're also doing every Friday this month, Liddy is kind of spearheading a call called a 3-hour power call. Do you want to give the number, Hernan? Jump in there and give the number, if you would, please. It's a one-number dial-in, no PIN code.
Okie doke. Let me pull it up. It went
you.
out in my email.
It's been a great call so far this month, and she's continuing it through this month. I don't know if she'll keep doing it.
We're going to be on tomorrow, Dr. Jerry.
Tomorrow, yeah, early.
Yes,
If you're in the
9
West
to noon
Coast,
Central.
9 to noon Central. Right.
781
There's
448
Liddy.
0092. And if I can let everyone know that we're going to have Gino on the call. Also, we're going to have Kurt and Kristen Ludlow on the call. We have so many testimonials coming in. And so I am traveling, but we're going to do it anyway because last week we had 118 people on the call, and almost for the entire call. It was over 100 for the entire 9 to noon.
Can you put the call in the chat, please? Can you put the number in the chat?
I think I can.
It's in the chat. I put it in there.
Thank you.
Yep.
What's the
Appreciate that.
time again? What's
Yeah,
the time
date-
again?
Date and time,
Central.
please.
Central, 9 till noon. And if you can, that would be, of course, 10 to 1 Eastern, and so on. So
Thanks,
invite
lady.
people,
Pretty early
invite,
for West
invite.
Coast.
Sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
Liddy, go ahead.
No,
7 to 10, West Coast.
7 a.m. West Coast,
Yeah.
but people get on it, and even people in Hawaii get on it. Gosh, that's got to be like 3 or 4 in the morning in Hawaii. So that's the power
It
of
was a
it.
great call last week. It was a really good call. Thanks, Liddy,
Yeah.
for doing that.
oh my gosh, you're
Absolutely.
welcome. You know, and
We
we've
have
got a lot of testimonials, new testimonials every day, and we are bringing them forth. And I just heard from somebody just probably an hour or so ago. He said, Liddy, he said, I was so worried, and he was so worried because he'd already gone to have his prostate checked. And he said, I was getting up 10 times a night, peeing about a tablespoon and going back to bed. And he said, I am that's serious trouble. I said, absolutely. Anyway, I'm not going to tell the rest of the story because tomorrow he's going to come on a call and he's going to tell you what happened. It's going to
Awesome.
blow your mind. So
very.
there you have it. And
Thank you, lady. That is awesome, and thank you for continuing that call. It's a great service.
Oh my gosh.
Much
To God be the
appreciated.
glory. I'm
I-
celebrating.
There's another lady giving us a service. She's on this call tonight, Judy Womack. She put up a site called Learn About PC. That's short for Pet Club. LearnAboutPC.com. She wants me to say it's a work in progress, but it's already really, really good. LearnAboutPC.com. Also, from a company perspective, great tool, PetSystemGuide.com. PetSystemGuide.com has all of the calls that the company does. If you scroll down, you can see how to access those calls. There's calls literally every day going on right now with this. So there's a massive action happening with you or without you. So I recommend have it happen with you. Get back to whomever sent you to this call. Demand they give you a link that you click and you go in and choose customer, advocate, or influencer. I recommend influencer if you can do it. That means you buy a pack one time. And you're going to want the pack anyway. You're going to want this product and you're going to want a lot of it. So be an influencer. Why not? And influence the world and change your life and change people's lives all around the globe. And it doesn't get any better than that, I can tell you for sure.